whilst you're thinking, I'm going to have to ask a question to either Mark or Adam. One of the big challenges you pointed out is the recruitment piece. So it's not as if there's a factory closing down and you can take people in. You've got to start from scratch. You outlined some of it in the presentation, but how do you think you're going to be able to scale up to 150 people?
I think Adam mentioned it in the talk. We've been very active on social media, and I think it's created a real buzz in not just the region, but nationally. And you say about redundancies, for example, there was redundancies actually at GSK, at the Barnard's Castle site. So we went to a careers fair and we were very present and wanted people to know that there was an opportunity to come and join the MMC. And I don't think we actually got somebody that was made redundant, but we did get somebody from GSK. So we've been very active, as I say, and we've attracted some really, really talented people. And our team that we're putting together is for the NHS is second to none. Certainly not in my experience. I've never seen a team like it. I think it's a really, really positive, strong team we're putting together. And I think we talked about culture today. We're able to develop our own culture, and some of that is kind of hitting the sweet spot between what industry do and what the NHS does, and pulling it together and making it successful. So I'm confident with the team we've got. As long as we get the right culture, we will have a really successful team. Allied to that, around recruitment as well, we've really sort of focused on values and the cultural aspect, not just the technical skills of individuals. So I think so far we've been incredibly successful in that. Would you say, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we've recruited into the senior roles right now because that's who we need in place for the time being. I think when we start to recruit those the entry level posts, the operators who are going to be at the coalface, so to speak, that might be a slightly different challenge. And the video that we've just showed you is part of the picture. But we are trying to attract a different workforce than the NHS usually tries to fill these roles with. So normally it's a pharmacy workforce, and normally it's been pharmacy assistants or pharmacy technicians. And that's not who we're targeting. We're targeting people who are coming from, for example, production line operatives or things like that, because that is the skill set that we're going to need for the type of manufacture that we're going to be doing. And we're lucky in the Northeast, we have a lot of organisations like that. We've got a big Nissan plant up there. Greg's the Bakers have a big factory just down the road, and I think it's really those people who we're going to try and target for our recruitment drive. And there's something about working for the NHS, especially when you're making products like chemotherapy or IV antibiotics, that is very rewarding personally, and that is definitely a big draw, and a lot of the reason why a lot of people have come from industry to join the organisation already.
I think could I just add another thing? Sorry, I would say that we've actively recruited people from a broad set of background to not drain the talent that we've got at the individual spoke sites as well, because the danger could have been that we took all those staff so that the spokes were damaged. But we've actively tried not to do that. Doesn't mean we haven't taken one or two staff, because we have, but we've tried to sort of share the burden a little bit. That does give a bigger sort of northeast perspective as well, though, because we need to form part of the subculture of developing new people into the whole region, so that the pharmaceutical industry has got enough people of a technical standard, as well as the NHS. So I think we are talking more collaboratively with our sort of partners in the region as well, as to how we can ensure that everybody gets the right people that they need in the industry.
So my next question really is for Niamh and for Kay, and it relates to 2 points that I picked up from your presentations. Niamh, firstly, you were talking about, I can't remember the exact phrase, but it was like that: see something, say something, do something. Yeah. Your version of London Transport Police and their notice on the underground. How easy is it to actually get genuine buy-in rather than people feeling like they're being forced to do something?
Yeah, that's a great question. I suppose from our perspective, there was a couple of things. The Contamination Control Starts With Me campaign, that was really the driver. And we have 23 sites globally. English isn't everybody's first language. So what we made sure of doing was translating the logo into all the languages because it resonates with the person. And you have the word me in that. That's who I am. And the other key piece that was really important was we got different people from across the organization, across different roles, explain, and we did posters out on this, how, what does contamination control starts with me mean for them? So for example, you talk there about recruitment and hiring in new people. Our talent acquisition team, when they're hiring in new people, they'll talk to people about, what does contamination control mean to you today? It could be in your personal life, or it could be in the role that you're in already. And it's really, again, to bring people into the organization where they're adding to the existing culture. So I think it does take time. It's not boiling the ocean. It's not something that happens overnight. West took the time to develop a logo. We don't develop logos for everything. So, it's about keeping it sustainable as well. And the way we're keeping it sustainable is we have that see, do, say. That is linked. So if someone's on the production floor, for example, they see oil or they see something that shouldn't be where it should be, that they can go and document it. And we're using our IoT platform to document it, bring it through, and then share the learnings then through our communities of practice. And the nice thing as well is, reward and recognition is really important. So we have kind of quarterly quality awards. So the See Do Say is one of the entry points into that. And that's something that we're not launching everything at the one time, but that's something that we'll launch next year, just as reward and recognition as well. When people, so it's not the £25 Marks and Spencer's voucher, but it is to recognise people, and we do it globally. Everybody gets involved globally as well, so it's a nice way to do it.
Excellent.
So I answered about 3 questions there. Sorry.
You're absolutely fine. Thanks very much, Niamh. Kay, then in terms of the senior leadership approach to this, sometimes you touched on how the difference in some sites. Is it a case of sometimes, and I hate to be cynical here, that if it hasn't been reported, we can just gloss over it and move on because profit is the driver or time is of the essence or whatever?
Yeah, I think it can be. Yeah, I mean, we all understand that product has to get to patients, and that is the driver of the business. Whether we're all employed and all get a salary, that's what we're there to do. But it's how we get to that point, isn't it? It's how smoothly can we get to that point. And I think, to touch on Niamh's point, it's very important to explain to individuals what are they going to get out of this course of action that we're taking. If people understand what they're trying to achieve and what benefit this will give them if we make these changes, then it's often very easier for them to implement the change or, speak up if there is a problem. So yeah, I think it's, we definitely understand product needs to get out to the patient, but how we get there is what we need to delve into really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nuaj, just in terms of the geopolitical shocks in the last few years, so maybe it's a bit of a trick question, I hope it's not, and forgive me if it is. Has Brexit and the ensuing, tumult with that prepared us better or enabled us to be a little bit calmer about tariffs? Because my thinking here is that if tariffs had come out of the blue saying Trump 1.0 in 2016 before Brexit, that people might have been a bit more panicky. Have companies almost priced in uncertainty now?
As I mentioned, the Brexit hurdles were mainly non-tariff hurdles anyway. So I would say no, and no one really expected President Trump to come in and putting all these tariff pressures randomly. It's hard to predict for that. And certainly within my context, at least, we're seeing decisions being made reactively to that situation because it's a complete unknown. And just to that point as well, with regards to even the actions that are being taken within the US, like it's difficult to tell which part is just postulating and what is actually going to be the reality in the future. So there's even more uncertainty around, just strong arming and whether it's strong arming or not. It's a bit difficult for, I'd say, industry to operate within that climate. That's pretty much it. I don't think there's
that
much.
completely makes sense. Yeah, good answer. Any questions before we wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen? We have a question, Victoria.
Thank you. I've had a sense all day I've been trying to get a pulse of the room of, in relation to drug developers having to develop a contamination control strategy that's holistic in partnership with their critical suppliers, how much of their strategy is looking at their component supply and how they need to make changes there? And it was really interesting to see that last presentation and your twin isolator with the VHP decontamination. That's going to put further pressure onto the component supply and whether those components can withstand that decontamination. So I wondered what your thoughts were specifically around component quality.
I mean, it's absolutely critical. We are working with component suppliers to ensure that not only we've got sufficient availability, but they are presented in an appropriate way to go through that VHP decontamination cycle. We're very lucky that the site we're at has a significant amount of storage space. We've got probably around about 500 pallet spaces within our warehouse, so we can store a significant quantity of buffer stock. But we're going to see more and more demand for consumables that are presented in this way. So we're working nationally to come up with a sort of universal consumable pack that can then be put out to national tender for any supplier to ensure that we've got multiple suppliers for that individual consumable pack. But absolutely, consumable supply will be critical for the success of these of this type of manufacturer at that sort of scale.
Okay, any further questions? Ladies and gentlemen, let's say thanks very much to our panel, to Kenny Bissett, Neil Carr, Adam Walker, Clay Hookin, and Mark Sutton. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is that. Thank you very, very much for your time and your attention today. In particular, I'd like to thank our speakers, and I'd like to thank them for giving up their time and for travelling great distances to be with us. We really do appreciate that, and thank you very much to them. I must myself thank our NSF team, who have been working on this event since November of last year, and I hope it shows. They've put in tremendous effort in the last year or so to get this event, and we hope to be back here again. I know they're going to kill me for saying it, next year, when we can start planning for next year. But overall today, I think, the industry is at an inflection point. We've got systems, we've got science and technology all interplaying amongst each other, and I think it's a very exciting time ahead. But again, thank you so much. Safe onward travels, and hopefully we'll see you again next year. Thank you. Thank you very much.